So my name is Hsien. I am one of the LEGATO board members, but I've sung with the Pink Singers since 2002, and then I've sung with the Barber Fellows since 2010. Voila. He, him pronouns.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm from the Pink Singers, and I run the Pink Singers Archive project, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I'm also a professional archivist in my daily life, so I work in London at Salle Archives, and I've done projects for the Bishopsgate Institute. So I'm here to bring choirs and archives sector knowledge, basically.
So just a few key takeaways for this presentation is that archiving your choir's history is important. Please do it now. The more, obviously, history accrues as it develops, but the choirs are made up of people who come and go. So your choir's history is not always in sync with the members that are in the choir at the moment. So the best thing to do is record, create, archive as you go along. Archival is not scary. I am the side of this team which knows nothing about archival. And so I think I had a bit of a fear factor going into these projects. But having done the 30th anniversary project and now the 40th anniversary project with the Pink Singers, it's actually relatively simple. And the fruits of our labor are just really so bountiful. It's definitely worth doing. Yes.
Will the presentation be available later?
I will be recording this, and no, you don't need to take notes.
We can share the slides.
Yeah, we'll share the slides and the video as well. So Legato is actually going to start doing something called choir epitaphs, which is really for those choirs that were formed before, have been members of Legato, and then for whatever reason have folded, closed down, whatever. And in the last 30 years of Legato, we've lost about 40 choirs in total, and the most recent big one was last year's Cantatori del Duomo from Utrecht. So we've been working with Cantatori del Duomo to collect their archive, because quite worryingly they didn't have one. It was all in a box in someone's attic. So what we're trying to do now is have a page on the Legato website which marks those choirs that have been around for decades and then have decided to close down. And the main reason we're doing this is that Legato itself needs to reconstitute its archive. The challenge with Various Voices festivals is that they are hosted by a host choir, so a lot of the material and a lot of the stories remains within. It's all right, welcome. Please feel free to join us. Try and come and sit towards the front and watch out for the camera there. There's a tripod.
Can we move the camera back a bit?
It's okay, I need to capture this, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So please come forward. This is a very relaxed sort of session. So as I was saying, Legato doesn't actually have its own archive, and most of its content is stored with other choirs. And the challenge then arises because other choirs don't have their own archive. So all of this material is in someone's back room, in a box somewhere, and heaven forbid, many of the early festivals, the people who are at these festivals have moved on, shall we say, and their children go have a look at these boxes and go, this is rubbish, and then throw it out. Yes. And that is such a knife in the heart for us. So part of the reason why we're launching this project is to encourage every choir to collect its own history and then let us know where your Various Voices and Legato memories are. We're going to talk about why we need archives. We have two case studies in this presentation. One is from the Pink Singers. You'll see some of this material here, and please feel free to come up and have a look at this. And then I'll also be talking about the Mélo'men project, which is really incredible. We met with the guys who were doing that a couple of weeks ago. Sadly, they can't be here, otherwise they would present their material. They're having their tech rehearsal at the moment. We'll have a little bit of a workshop, I guess. We're not expecting this session to go on for too long. Thankfully, we have air conditioning, so that doesn't put the cap on here. We might just stay here anyway. And then I'll go on and talk about the Legato Archive project. So Legato, as you know, is the European LGBTQ plus choir association. We've undergone quite a bit of restructuring in the last few years, and we have about 6 or 7 project streams that are happening at the moment for which we are seeking European funding. And I'll talk a little bit about that project to explain to you how that's going to work. And at the end, we'll do a little summation and maybe go for drinks afterwards. So, introduction. The question always with archiving, and the question for me personally was like, who am I? Who am I? And this photo in that corner there, 2003, is me with a bit more hair, sitting in the drill hall, which Paul will remember because you were in the drill hall with me, in London. Next to me is Andre, and next to Andre is Philip Rascola. We are in our little tenor section. I actually joined the Pink Singers in 2002, but 2003 was when I got my first digital camera. I applied for one of those mail order things in a newspaper. They paid a bit of money, sent it, and they came, and this box showed up. And it could take 15 photographs in 640 by 480 resolution, so it was 0.1 megapixels, something really tiny. But it was amazing because then I could take all of these pictures of all of these people and not worry about running out of film. I had one of those film cameras as well, obviously. Pink Singers was revolutionary to me, being part of a choir that had where I could meet other LGBTQ people in a safe space. We all know what it's like being an LGBTQ choir. And it really inspired me then to take on some of the more expansive roles. So in 2009, which is about 7 years later after I joined, I helped to organize Various Voices London. So that was actually my second Various Voices. I went to Various Voices Paris with the Pink Singers before that. And it was about that time that I started to think, hang on, where we are now isn't something that happens spontaneously. There's this chain of people who have existed before me. And from 2003 to 2009, Andre left, and I actually don't know where Andre went. And so when Andre left, he took all of his memories of being in the Pink Singers before I was there. And I don't think I will ever know his experience of it any longer. Thankfully, Philip is still in the choir. So, and if you ever meet Philip, you'll know that he cannot stop talking about our choir history, which is wonderful. And that really sort of generates this idea that we are part of something bigger. And so back in about 2010 or so, another choir member and I started to think, we need to talk to our older members, collect some of these stories. And if you go back 7 years from when I joined to 1996, you'll see all of these Pink Singers. Were you in the choir in 1996?
1997 now.
Yeah, so interesting. So there's Mladen, he's wearing the Bloody Foreigner t-shirt. He's from Croatia. So he was our MD. I know Julie there, and obviously there's Philip there and Richie, but all of these other faces are kind of like strangers to me. But they were also Pink Singers. And if you go back even further, another 6 years, then we go back to 1990. This is, you still see Philip there in that picture, looking decidedly younger and more sprightly. And so many people with a lot less weight than they had in subsequent photographs. This was in Miami in 1990 with the Pink Singers doing a gala trip. And if you go right back to 1993, we had that article from Pink Paper talking about Pink News, Pink Paper, talking about how the choir first started. And so all of these things for me are really fascinating because it makes me see that, even though I'm actually only on this journey with Pink Singers for a short period, but many people have been on that journey for a very long time. And it's lovely to have that richness, and we need to capture these stories because they are important. So what is choir history? This is just a kind of a snapshot of the kinds of stuff that we have fortunately been collecting. This picture here on the left is 25th of March 1983, which is the diary of our first musical director. So he talks about, it's fascinating, he talks about the kind of really scrappy group of people who first showed up, the experiences that he had trying to teach music and then trying to organize a Pride performance. And we have many, many pages of this, which is really wonderful. So if you have someone who writes the diary, I don't know who writes the diary anymore, but it was really wonderful that we had that material. If you don't have a diary, then the modern equivalent is the blog, right? And one thing that we try to do in the choir now is make sure that whenever there is an event, we have one of our members write down their experiences and their memories of what happened. So this is Salle from the Pink Singers. We were recording a song together with another choir, with a band, an Afrobeats band in Abbey Road. And we were doing the backing chorus for them. And this is just the experience that she had there. In addition to sort of the written stuff, we have all of these programs, and I'm sure your choir also has these things. So does anyone recognize EG3 Kaleidoscope? You were there, yeah. So
beautiful theater.
yeah, so this is the second festival in Stockholm. Third festival in Stockholm. The third festival was also the first one that the Pink Singers participated in.
Yes, and they famously did a song in Swedish that no one could understand. And this weekend we're singing in Welsh, so if there's any Welsh people here.
My husband says the same when we sing in French.
Photographs, obviously, I'm sure your choir has loads of photographs, and now that they're digital, you probably have even more photographs. There's always a challenge there in how to store them, how to index them, how to put metadata onto them. Once again, the idea is please do it now, and do it as you go along, because otherwise the mountain becomes crazy. This is the Pink Singers in Hamburg, I think.
91, 92,
yeah, something like
93, or 99, early 90s.
Obviously now we have videos. I don't know whether your choir records activities like rehearsals, video, trips away, performances. Videos are really important, and it's quite nice to be able to now with YouTube, which handles all the licensing side of things, to be able to put that material up there as well. The last one is actually a video of an oral history that I conducted with a couple of our members, Rosie and Tim. They were members in the 90s. In fact, the previous pictures had Tim in it as well. I have to show you because I think that's Tim there, and that's Tim is the red tank top.
I did one.
Yeah, and this is Tim now. Red is obviously his color. But it's really lovely to sort of hear the stories from back then, and you capture all of these things because there's kind of a wonder in reminiscing, and if you bring people together, you see I have Rosie and Tim together because then they can bounce off each other, they can remind each other of what happened, and they have photographs in front of them, and those photographs are there as aid memoirs to talk about. So we do a video and we record the audio and we put it up on YouTube as a way of sort of collecting and making it available to other people. So I guess the other question then is who benefits from the choir archive? And I think this is pretty obvious, right? It is your choir benefits the most. It really gives your choir a sense of history, a sense of place, a sense of purpose, and that does so many things. It creates a foundation for your choir to build into the future. It gives your members a sense that they are part of something bigger than themselves. And you can call to values, tradition, and heritage, as many people do nowadays, to bring about a kind of a unanimity or unity of purpose for your choir. And certainly we found that in the Pink Singers. It really helps when we have a site that's dedicated to our history, and we encourage all our new members to go visit it so that they understand that they're also part of this journey that we're all taking. When you have a good sense of what your history is, you can use it then to inform things going forward. And this is our 30th anniversary concert, so more than 10 years ago now, 13 years ago. And we use that concert to talk about the history of the Pink Singers in the context of wider social change. And so we created tableaus of episodes of conflict and resolution over that time. And that really, I felt, helped the choir understand itself in ways that you get beyond just reading about something. And that really helps, obviously, to build your community, because that's ultimately what choirs do. We are here to build our community. Okay, this is the bit that's a bit weird because we have no Wi-Fi here, so I'm going to try and show a video. Let me do this. Okay, so this is, there are a couple of reasons why I want to post this. One of which is, this is Home in Musical Machine, which is a song that we commissioned for our 40th anniversary. And it was put together by a couple of members of the Pink Singers. Simon Pearson is the arranger, and I'm not sure what name for the...
Jay Monroe.
Okay, yeah, so Jay went through our archives to look at some of the early material and used the sign-in sheet for the very first rehearsal to inform the lyrics of the song. So this song is really about that first rehearsal and talking about how the community eventually formed. It's on YouTube. Please go look at it because it's a really beautiful piece of music and it is really a lovely story. I won't play the whole thing, but what I will do is I will also then hang on. Let's do this. Go back to here. No. Go back to here.
Back to the middle.
Yes, I will do. Yes, we will be doing that. So this, on the right here is the lyrics of that song. So hello, welcome to your first rehearsal. What's your name? Robin, voice part alto, I think. What's your, and they ask your name, and I'm Robin, I'm a tenor and accompanist, I'm Maria and Joe. And what part do you sing? Political. If you look at the actual sign-in sheet, you can see Robin Preston joined, and her voice part is alto. And we have another Robin, who's a tenor, pianist, or accompanist. And then we have Maria and Joe, who are both political. Right. So, I mean, once again, this really it really gives me a sense of place. Right.
They're together,
yeah.
same flat.
As a
power couple.
The political power couple.
Love that.
Okay, over to you.
This is another example from the same project where we recreated something from our history. So I think they're singing a song called Big Best Shoes, which the Pink Singers performed at various AIDS benefits in 1985 and for the East London Trans Centre. And so we re-performed it 40 years later with members of our choir now, including various trans members. So it's kind of like an homage and a recreation, and it's just quite fun as well to dress up in bin liners.
Yeah, I love the bin liner outfit. The costumes were these converted bin liners, and we've reinterpreted it.
We restyled.
Much more fashionable now.
Couture versions. Okay. So I'm just going to speak for 5 minutes about LGBTQ archives in general, because I think it's quite important and interesting. Some of you may know about the Institute for Sexualwissenschaft, which was the Institute for Sexology founded by Magnus Hirschfeld in Germany in 1919. It's probably what could be considered the first queer archive or queer library, and it was a centre that supported people with varying sexualities and gender identities, but it was shut down by the Nazis in 1933, and they destroyed the library and burned the books of the institute. So this is kind of the foundations of the queer archive movement, is that the loss of that amazing, incredible archive. And in the 1950s, the kind of homophile movement began to fight for gay rights across the world, but across Europe, and to kind of reclaim our identities as queer people that had actually been quite vibrant in the 1920s before things went south. And that kind of developed into the gay liberation movement of the 1970s, which is really the foundations of what we're doing now. We're kind of singing loud and proud, and our visibility is important, and we kind of put that at the front of our activism. through singing. So that in the 1970s, that kind of gay liberation movement based on the homophile movement and the legacy of the Institute for Sexualwissenschaft. In the 1970s, lots of these gay liberation activist groups around Europe began to think about our history and recovering that lost record of our community. So this is just an example of some of those early archive projects that were set up by the activist groups around Europe. So there's the Homosexuellen Aktion West Berlin lesbian group, set up the Spinnboden Lesbian Archive in Berlin. And in Amsterdam there's now ILIA, which is founded on the earlier archives of Homodoc and the lesbian archives as well. In London we have the Hall Computer Archives, which was set up by the Campaign for Homosexual Equality, gay monitoring group. And the Schwules Museum in Berlin was above a gay nightclub. I'm not actually sure who established that, but
the Schwules Museum has moved and has a bigger place, a very beautiful place, and a big archive in the near of Mollendorf.
Okay, wow. Mollendorf, okay,
we'll put that on our list.
Yes.
we're about to travel
on the
to
other side, not on the gay side.
So that's some early queer archives in Europe. And I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what Hsien was mentioning about our choirs and our communities, engaging with heritage generally, but specifically LGBTQ heritage can be really good for our well-being and our mental health, our resilience and our sense of community and belonging. On the television you see lots of family history, there's genealogy, ancestry, these kind of who do you think you are and programs like that, and they talk about our biological family history, right? But for me this is also my family history. It's the history of people who did great things in queer lives before me, and I love to learn from those people, and I think it's so important that we make sure that those stories are saved, because biological family history, it gets saved by the children if the families are straight. Queer families, we need to look out for each other's heritage and learn from it, and I think it's just so, it bolsters my sense of identity, and I think all of us learn something from our elders, basically. This is an example of some other queer archives around Europe today, just to give you an example of what's going on now. There are lots of archives across Europe that are working on saving queer histories and sharing them. There's even some more, lots of them. So we're trying to make sure that we know who they are, and we'll talk more about the Legato project later, trying to get queer choir archives into these places. Okay, so I'm just going to talk shortly about the Pink Singers project, which is, for those who arrived late, we're from Legato, but I'm also from the Pink Singers archive project, so we're kind of talking about a couple of different case studies around different choirs. So the Pink Singers was founded in 1983, and in 2023 we created an archive project to bring our archives together in one place and deposit them at the Bishopsgate Institute, which is one of the biggest LGBTQ archives in the UK. And we got some funding, which was amazing, from the National Lottery Heritage Fund to do this project. But before I kind of talk about this project that cost a lot of money, I should say that this project was founded on 15 or 20 years of volunteer work creating our archives. So you don't need a lot of money to do this kind of thing, but we were lucky to get some money to do this project, and most of the money actually went on making a film and making a podcast, so the other things we did very much as volunteers. Okay, so this is kind of to give you an example of how we created the project. In 2021 we had a kind of online session about telling stories of the choir. This is in the COVID era. We were doing lots of online activities, so we kind of had an online workshop, and we talked about our archives and our history, and we asked our choir members how they thought we should celebrate the 40th anniversary. So this is some of the ideas that they came up with, bring the choir's stories outside of London, create a secret zine with our internal stories. So some of our choir members, they made a zine with some information about the history of the choir or just LGBTQ history generally. They just did that themselves. We didn't tell them to do that. It just shows that there's lots of interest in queer history across the choir, frankly. Singing our history, that people were keen to kind of bring the history into our performances and into our songs and our singing. And someone really wanted us to make a podcast using old and new oral histories. So we were already recording oral histories with our members, but they're quite long and hard to listen to in totality. So someone said, let's make a podcast series. Let's skip past that. Okay. So we got some money, we got some people together, but most of these people are volunteers. So on this screen, we spent a long time kind of contacting people who had been in the choir or who are still in the choir, and we kind of found all of these things in people's attics and bedrooms, and we somehow got them all to the Bishopsgate Institute in London. And these pictures are just of the cataloguing process, where we listed everything and we put it into some kind of logical order. So I don't know if you on the screen here. These are one of our first banners from 1984, I think. This is a more recent banner. That's our first T-shirt. This is some props for Mr. Blue Sky, where the sun comes out on stage from the clouds. And this is Brian, who is our choir mannequin. The founder of the Pink Singers was someone called Brian Kennedy, who was an incredible gay rights activist and journalist in London. But he sadly died of AIDS in 1991. So this mannequin actually travelled around with our exhibition about our history to kind of represent Brian. And we dressed him up in different costumes.
He's usually much more well endowed than that as well.
Yes, he's augmented. He's wearing a large sort of tulle glittering dress at the moment. He's in the Bishopsgate Institute, so anyone can go and visit him.
Where is this actually stored now?
So this is stored at the Bishopsgate Institute, which is in
London.
Bishopsgate, which is near Liverpool Street in London. So
it's an LGBT archive?
Which is an LGBTQ plus archive. Yeah, there's
So there's someone who has actual space for these things. Okay, that's
yeah. The Bishopsgate
is it stored or is it on display?
So Brian is on display. Everything else is stored. It's a historic building from the 1890s, but they have enormous basements that go under the street. So they have all these archive stores underground. And actually, if you go to the Bishopsgate Institute, you can book to go on a tour, and they will take you down through to see where everything is stored, which is fascinating. And we recently went to the LGBT archive in Amsterdam, who also can take you on tours, and they have, it's kind of a
massive
cave of
storage
wonders.
These archives are great because they're designed to store material and to in the right kind of climate. They know how to store paper, how to store clothing. So they're the best places to work with when it comes to this kind of material.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, please do.
Because I hear you said you made an index of the stuff, but is that you did yourself or the archive did it? Because I think an archive has their own system of cataloging.
Yes. So either is possible, right? So I'm actually a professional archivist in my day job, and we hired this. Victoria here is a professional archivist that we hired for this project. But putting things into a logical order is something that anyone can do. And I think most choirs have some kind of order that they store things in, their minutes, their programs, their recordings. It's kind of logical. Some other choir projects, all they do is they just get the box of stuff and they give it to the archive, and then the archive organises it, lists it, catalogues it. So there are different options of how to do this kind of thing. So yeah, I want to really stress that there isn't any one way to do this kind of project. You don't need lots of money, you don't need lots of people, but you just need to find the materials and engage with an archive if possible.
You just use the the word money. You just used the word money. Do you have to pay the Bishopsgate Institute?
No. No, all of these archives, they don't charge you to take in materials. But if you wanted to hire somebody to do things, you could do that. That's up to you. But you could also just donate materials to these archives.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. The one thing that archives don't do is they don't take lots of duplicates. So they would only want one program of each concert and one flyer. They wouldn't want 20 programs of the same thing.
No.
Yeah. So that was cataloguing the archive. We also wanted to share the music from the archive, so we digitised all of our recordings, which were on cassette, VHS tape and cassette tape and DAT tape, and we created some new albums which are now online, so you can go and listen to some of the historic recordings, which is great. And if your choir doesn't put music online, it's actually not that difficult. It is a bit. Technically, it's a hurdle, but it's not expensive. Is what I want to kind of say with this slide. So in the middle here, I've put an indication of how much it cost us to create this album, which is the first 20 years of the choir. It's 44 tracks, and they're mostly songs that were cover songs, right? So we're singing a song by Madonna or a song by whoever. So I think some of the songs were also original compositions, but they're mostly cover songs. So we use something called cover song licensing, and we use a agency in the United States called CD Baby, which does the distribution, and Easy Song Licensing that does the licensing. And once you're set up with them, it's just a process that you go through to clear the materials. But it gets it out to quite a wide audience. So on the left is the kind of listening figures for our albums online. And there's quite a variation in them. The album at the very bottom is all of our kind of old classical pieces that don't seem to be having quite as much traction, unfortunately, but I really love them. The ones with all the high numbers is all of our Kate Bush recordings, because for some reason, I think after Netflix, Stranger Things, Kate Bush has gone
running up that hill
up on Spotify. But anyway, we shared lots of our old recordings anyway, so if you want to hear what the Pink Singers sounded like in the 1980s, you can get that on Spotify and various other YouTube Music and other places. And the kind of biggest part of this particular archive project was our podcast series, and we recorded long-form oral histories, which is what Hsien was talking about doing 10 years ago. We did some more of those now, but they're in 1 hour or 2 hours in some cases, so they're very long conversations in detail about people's memories of their time with the choir. So we wanted to make something that was more accessible to a wider audience and kind of told a story of, a narrative. So we made a podcast series with Aunt Nell, who are an incredible, a very small, incredible company that makes history and heritage, LGBTQ history and heritage podcasts. They specialize in that particular thing. And they're founded by Adam Smith and Tash Walker, who Adam is an author and Tash is the former chair of Switchboard, which is the UK's main LGBT helpline. And they now make these podcast series. So this is our podcast, Sing It Pink, the story of the Pink Singers. This is just the page that shows you what it's on. And I'm going to play you the trailer. I'm going to do it from my phone though, because we're struggling with technical. Okay.
From London, the Pink Singers.
In 1983, an LGBTQ+ activist and a cabaret performer felt the London gay music scene was missing something.
London needs a gay choir, and you are obviously the person to set it up.
And so, the Pink Singers were born. Over the next 40 years, the Pink Singers have sung their way through some of the greatest challenges to the LGBTQ+ community.
We'd like to dedicate this one to the Earls Court Pretty Police and all the people that have got to know them rather better.
And a circle of lads around us, throwing things and jeering and shouting us, all sorts of abuse about us being trans. I remember going off to one Pinky's rehearsal on a Sunday afternoon, and I stepped out the door and people started throwing rocks and broken glass at me.
You'd go in, the receptionist would say, David left us this week. That's his candle. And some weeks there would be one candle or none, and other weeks you'd have half a dozen.
Throughout it all, the choir provided LGBTQ+ folks with a refuge, a place of expression, activism, and joy.
Our next song is all about safe sex. And of course, safe sex these days isn't just a matter of putting the handbrake on. And there's really no excuse for not practicing safe sex, as you've got condoms and dental dams, and now we've even got femidoms, which apart from being great for safe sex are marvellous if you're moving house. Anyway, the rest of my safe sex lesson, well, it's in the song.
Wear a condom, wear a condom, wear a condom.
Certainly realising that I could sing and make lovely sounds with other people on a moving vehicle on the Pride March. I really felt that was one of my greatest achievements, really.
And it was just that sense of being with other people that like you, but also different to you, and learning that, every culture has LGBT plus people in, because you kind of realise it, but to see it is a very different matter. And also that there was this one thing that bound us across the world, and that was singing.
In the face of adversity, the Pink Singers have harmonised their way through 4 decades and are still going strong. Brought to you by Aunt Nell, the producers of the logbooks, this is Sing It Pink, the incredible 40-year story of the UK and Europe's oldest LGBTQ+ choir. As told through the stories and songs of Pinkies from past and present.
I think most of us really cry for joy and happiness, really, that we will be able to sing together and listen how good we were as a choir.
We just sang through all that turmoil. We sang through jubilation. We sang through trials and tribulations, and we sang through protests, and that was our message and our method.
Listen to Sing It Pink wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes available now.
Okay, so that was...
Before we start, we just want to let you know that...
So, there were 8 episodes, and there were about 40 minutes per episode. So it's quite a long-form journey, which is great. And we kind of, based on the consultation that I shared with, all the different coloured post-it notes, we asked people what stories they wanted to learn more about. And obviously, because our choir is very intersectional, we had a wide range of needs, and people wanted to learn more about women's history or trans history or all sorts of different things. And we tried to kind of put those needs into the shape of the podcast. So we talked about the founding of the choir, our response to the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 80s, women's inclusion. There's a journey for us of women being in the choir and then not being in the choir and then kind of coming back in again in the late 1980s, which is a really interesting story to tell. We kind of talked about what a choir is, because not everyone listening to a podcast will know what happens in a choir, especially in a queer choir. And we talked about travelling around the world, coming to places like Brussels and other countries around the world to share our activism through singing. We talked about trans inclusion, which is also a really long journey and fascinating journey for us that we've been going through. We talked about love and relationships, all the kind of people who've got married from our choir, or people who've become best friends who go to geeky archives together, or you know, all the strange things that happen in choirs.
Weirdos.
So yeah, that just gives you an idea of what the podcast is. But if you are interested in the history of the Pink Singers, go and listen to the podcast. There's also all of the transcripts are available on the Sing It Pink website, so you can go, if English isn't your first language, you can kind of read through the scripts or translate them into your own language there. Okay. Oh, and we won a podcast award for the series earlier this year.
Yeah, earlier this year.
At the British Podcast Awards. So that's Adam and Tash who founded Aunt Nell, and the producer Rachel, and that's Matilda and myself from the choir. Yeah, just celebrating. So we did this amazing Pink Singers project where we've digitized all of our archives, and we have this incredible set of digital materials, but actually most of it still isn't available to the wider world, which is something that we're now trying to kind of figure out what's next. How do we share the archive, all of the programs and the flyers and the recordings? You know, some of it's out there, but we want to make more of it available to all of our members and people who've left the choir and, you know, the wider online community. This is what's in my Google Drive that no one can see. And so this leads on nicely to what Hsien is going to talk about, which is the Mélo'men archives.
I feel a little bit of a fraud here because obviously I'm not from the Mélo'men. Mélo'men is
the news.
Oui, merci. They are the Parisian choir. Their story is also really, really interesting. This one I have to show the video. I can see how this works. Here, but the sound's not so important for this video. Basically surfacing and making their archives. I'm sorry, you can see all the kind of weird stuff that I watch on. There we go. They surface all of this material that to the wider public, made it interactive and interpretable. So that QR code goes to their website, which is meloarchive.melo'men.com. So if you want to go, please visit it. It is one of the most amazing pieces of. Yeah. So the team running it is Jean-Marc Clégironnet and Thierry Breton. And we met with them maybe 2 weeks ago in preparation for this. Unfortunately, as I said, they can't come to this. They are currently doing their tech rehearsal with Mélo'men, who have a performance this afternoon. We talked about what challenges they faced, because we know what our challenges were. And in many ways, it's kind of the same thing. It's difficult sometimes to get the enthusiasm and motivation going in your choir, because not everyone understands what archiving is. It sounds really boring. It's like maybe history is something that they studied in school, and it's like, oh, it's not relevant to me. They particularly said that funding for these types of projects is challenging in French culture. I'm not entirely sure why, but I think it's particularly LGBTQ archives. But that said, there's been a new archive that has formed in Paris. So this project was done in collaboration with that archive, the Centre d'Archives LGBTQ+ Paris. Jean-Marc and Thierry were basically the main people who did the whole project. So it was just the two of them. And they said it took up a lot of time, was very exhausting for them, but I see this as actually a really positive thing because it just took 2 people and they could create something just so amazing. Surfacing the material, always you encounter the challenges with copyright and permissions because you are now making stuff public which you may not have the ownership of. And so what you see on their website is actually only about 10% of their total archive. So for them, their key learning points were for both your digital and the physical archive. I don't know if we really talked about this yet, or maybe made a clear differentiation between the two. But we have something called a physical archive, which is all the objects that we were talking about. And they are working together with the Centre d'Archive in Paris. And that's where all their material has been donated to. So just like the Pink Singers worked with the Bishopsgate Institute, they've been working with another archive. The digital archive is the stuff that they are storing themselves on their own servers, and that includes all the music, copies of their minutes of their meetings, programs, photographs, videos, all of that. And they, when it comes to, they did a lot of the cataloging themselves and with volunteers. And so for them to put it all together and to add the metadata and all the information that you were talking about earlier required that they set up a system that enabled someone who has no knowledge of archives to be able to say, oh, this is what this is, and I'm going to enter the data here. So there was a series of a flow chart that for every item that went into the digital archive, their volunteers had to go through. Mm-hmm. And this would then enable the material then to be searched and surfaced at a later date. When they started out doing this project, I think the database itself was not so well defined. They clearly knew what they needed for initial objects, but as more material got added, they needed to add different metadata points into their database. So Jean-Marc in particular was very keen on talking about the idea of an agile database. This is a very computer sciencey term. I'm not a computer scientist, but it's a term to think about and take away if you're going to do something like this for yourself. And finally, this is another big thing at the moment. The Pink Singers Archive is currently stored on Google Drive, which, as you know, is mainly an American company. And we are here now talking very much about open source software and data sovereignty. You know, we don't want material to be trapped inside something that is proprietary on a server in a country that is not ours. So they've also worked very hard, and they have their own system which they store with a provider in France. So these are really interesting things that we hadn't really thought about when we were going through our own project, and we just wanted to make sure that you also heard about them. Sadly, as I said, they're not here.
I have been in IT for
Oh, brilliant.
years. So is there an existing freeware platform that we can tap into? Your professional architect, how do you do it professionally?
Yes, there are. I mean, solutions exist. You do need some kind of to be quite computer savvy to make them work. So there are kind of open source cataloging software solutions like Atom, which is access to memory. So if you look up ATOM cataloging, you will find out information about that. What do you remember what the one that? Sorry.
Atom.
Access to memory. ATOM.
Access to memory.
So that's one open source solution that some archives use to publish their catalogues online.
Is there any common interchange protocol? So if we use access to memory, we could then share with Pink Singers or
yes.
Chorus. Is there?
I mean, there are cataloging standards across Europe, like ISAG or IISG. They're just terms for standardized metadata descriptions.
I'm with you on that.
And Omeka is another solution that some people use. OMEKA. But there are various open source solutions. O-N-E-K-A.
Would that be useful if we standardise on one and there's potential to share and cross-reference?
Yes.
Yeah.
In theory, yes.
We could then port to you and say, hit that.
Yes. I mean, I would say that if you fold, the most important thing is to make sure that everything's in one place. The standardisation won't be the issue. The survival of that material will be the main issue.
My understanding, and this is someone who's completely ignorant of all of this sort of thing, is that as long as the data is there, it can be translated into whatever system you want to use. So that the main thing is to have the data to begin with. Most of these things use something called I don't know, SQL, MySQL.
SQL is just a database.
Okay, fine. Okay, that's how they written it. Anyway.
The tables they use and the relationships within that, they're defining themselves as these in MySQL.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yes. So that's Mélo'men Archive. Jean-Marc and Thierry are both here at Various Voices. So please do, if you can spot them, go up and say hello to them, because they have their expertise is very interesting. So now we're at the discussion workshop time.
These are just some prompt questions, but I think that what we just want to do is talk to you and understand your interests and what you think your choir needs. And yes, does anyone want to talk about their particular project or thoughts?
I'm from Brussels. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
And we were founded 20 years ago, so it's an anniversary year. And our founding member is our archivist, really. He has his special room in his apartment dedicated to Tapalanot. So we every year we give him some samples of the posters, flyers, any material. We donate some to Armando, so we know it's safe. But what if Armando is no longer available or capable of storing it or whatever? So I think we need to plan for the future. And we do have a big party in October. We invited all our ex-members. And what we did not do, on this occasion we might still do it, is ask them to bring material. So I put up to Armando. So this gives me ideas. And what we also did, we made posters at our latest concert during the Pride Month. We had these posters about 20 years of Tapalanot, with testimonies of current members, why they are in Tapalanot, what it means to them to be there with the choir, and pictures.
Amazing.
So I think durable, so you can use them. It's an exhibition about 20 posters in, durable material. So we reuse it.
So you spoke about, is it Hernando?
Armando. He's supposed to be here today, but due to health issues,
he has his archive in boxes in the spare room. When we recently visited the LGBT archive in Amsterdam, Elia, and I don't know if I have them with me, but they have these stickers that you can stick on things, and they say, "Don't throw this away," which we thought was fantastic. So we're thinking about making something for Legato or the choirs to give out at the 2030 festival, maybe some stickers that says, "Don't throw this away, send it to whichever archive in the country." So we'll talk more about this after this discussion, but we want to make sure that choirs can reach out to archives in their local country. If the choirs are no more or people pass away and you want to save their archives, maybe we can make that clearer to anyone who is, I don't know, looking after their house or their belongings, I guess.
So which choir were you with?
Tapalanot.
Tapalanot, Tapalanot. 20 years already. I can't believe it's gone so quickly. Congratulations. Yeah, I remember the first Tapalanot concert. Anyone else celebrating an anniversary?
We're 21.
21?
So we did 20 last year, but this year is also the 10th year without a second musical director and assistant musical director, so they're celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Which choir is it?
Actually.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry, yes.
So we don't, I think, do we have an archive? Someone's been collecting programs. I know I've got all your programs, but I don't have posters.
There's always someone that collects something, right?
Yeah.
Hsien has all the t-shirts for every choir.
I do. I collect other people's t-shirts.
I thought some of the t-shirts.
Amazing.
It's not.
Were you in the choirs from the start, Ian?
I've been in the choir 17 years.
Okay, so almost.
Not from the very start.
Almost.
So I don't have a very big link.
Okay. And do you?
I'm intrigued by the idea of a family tree because I believe my musical director, as part of family of BGMC, then had a dispute with Weeks and left and set up us. And then we had a split and Resound formed from us, and it all gets very genealogical.
It does.
One of the Brighton choirs was set up by a pink singer, right?
Yeah, we just ran into.
Singers. Yes, we do.
We just ran into Pippin. You know Pippin from Rainbow Chorus in Brighton.
Right, I don't know the Rainbow Chorus.
Okay, so Pippin is in the UK we have our Hand in Hand Festival, LGBT Choir Festival, and at the Hand in Hand Festivals we give out awards for long service. Basically, so these you got. But congratulations. So the longest one is the 30 years in singing in an LGBT choir called the Gold Award. It's named after Brian Kennedy, not the mannequin, the actual person. At the last festival, we gave an award to Pippin Boardman, who is the founder of Rainbow Chorus in Brighton, but he was a pink singer before that. So talking about the idea of genealogy. Yes, indeed. Yes. Yeah. So that was anyone else celebrating an anniversary?
Yes, as I told you.
Yeah. You are? Okay, very good.
Well, I get nervous while speaking English, so maybe I have to do it slowly.
Yeah.
But my choir is both Madrid, and we have 10 years old now.
Okay, congratulations, Vohes.
And we have been performing like a whole piece, a musical perform out our story by selection and a selection of all the songs that we have been performing all over these 10 years, and making like telling people who are we, all the crises that we have been through, like all these 10 years, and yeah, it's like our way to celebrate our anniversary.
Yeah.
It's like our perform of these years, that is this piece of musical. Yeah.
Do you have a physical archive as well?
No, I think that we don't have it. Like well, we have videos on that, but not like this catalog or this way of categorizing songs. Yeah. But I get the idea and I want to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, have you been in the choir since the start?
No, I've been like I have been through a year. Yeah.
Okay, wow. Okay, no, good. I think we need people who are interested and have the energy to do it. Otherwise, it's us old fogies who are doing all the archival work.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. And I'm interested in doing like a short film of the choir.
Oh, wow, that's very good.
Yeah. Because I'm into the audiovisual things and that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a great idea.
Yeah.
We can share, at the end there'll be a link and you can watch the Pink Singers short film that's like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the words?
Vohes LGBTQ. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Mélo'men and we celebrate next year the 40th birthday, and I'm singing with them since 39 years. So it happened that I didn't went away from Berlin. I always stayed in Berlin, and so many people changed cities and changed choirs, but I was always there. And we had a very hard time to pick out our favorite songs from 40 years. But yes, next year in April we have this concert, but unfortunately an original archive we don't have it. We have only pics here, pics there, but I have contact to the Schwules Museum, some stuff, and I will contact them and try to get their box or whatever, their archive, and that's my next project.
Have you thought of contacting former members of the choir?
Yes, I could contact them. Yes.
So our experience with the Pink Singers project is that our record keeping was actually quite bad, right? Or not bad, but it was very non-standardized and it was very non-centralized. So we recently went to Amsterdam to look at the Not Underman archives, who were one of the founders of the Various Voices Festival in 1985, and they have this incredible archive there. It's all the administration, every minute, all the minutes, all of their correspondence with the other choirs, every program, every leaflet, every recording. And I think there must have just been one person at Not Underman who was an amazing secretary who kept everything in one place, right? But the Pink Singers, our storage was quite chaotic, and it's taken us 15 years to find everything that we could find.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, we now have most of our flyers from the 80s and most of our programs, but it's not as complete as the Not Underman archive. So I guess my advice would be just try and locate more people from those years if they're still around.
How do you manage that? You just said you found all the emails and what have you. I mean, the explosion of how we use emails. I mean, I've got thousands of emails that are so insignificant that are we going for dinner tonight?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. How do you filter those out to make it
archival,
of irrecoverable interest?
Yes. I guess we're into the digital era now, but we did go through that. So the Pink Singers went digital in around, well, the first websites came out in around 1998. We kind of switched to email correspondence from around 99, 2000, and all of our kind of emails to choir members around like the bulletins and the weekly update and things organising all of our concerts, we managed to recover some of that. So one set of materials we got from the person who made our first website, and he's a tech wizard. So he knew how to do that, and we also used a piece of software to capture one of the members' personal collection of emails, and we filtered it down to emails only from the Pink Singers, basically. So we have a digital set of those emails, but it's incomplete. It's quite a useful record of that time.
One of my directors was quite clear with me that when, sorry, the branch on the RTs, that when somebody leaves, you need to leave their email.
Right. But that's
internal information.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're not going to go down the personal information route today, but that is a big topic, GDPR and all of that. But just briefly, in Europe, in the UK, but in Europe as well, there are exceptions to data protection legislation, particularly for archiving. So in the UK, it's called archiving in the personal interest, which is a specific piece of a specific line in the legislation that enables personal data to be kept by archives, and then the access is managed by the public archive. So they kind of have a responsibility for the personal data that is there, but they kind of manage the access to it. But yeah, there's a lot more in detail that we could go into on that, but it's something we have to be aware of, certainly.
Yeah, it's probably be good to explore that.
Yes. Okay, maybe let's talk about this for one more minute. In Europe, there's a digital aggregator called Europeana, which publishes lots of digital archives for the whole of Europe, from different public archives and private collections. And they have some kind of protocol now that enables you to publish digital archives but redact personal data or kind of somehow edit out the personal data. So I guess we will explore that, but I don't really understand the technical, how that works yet, to be honest. But those solutions do exist, and obviously with the kind of massive rise in AI, there will be ways to address this issue more intelligently.
And I would agree with you, the whole idea of email was a real challenge for us. Certainly from the, I guess, mid-90s till the early 2000s, which is when, everything it was kind of this wilderness of digital platforms, right? We had a MySpace page, which we can't recover anymore. We were on Yahoo groups, which we I think we recovered a little bit from the Yahoo groups.
Everything was on Yahoo groups, which got closed down in 2020.
So there's this like little black hole for which we are lacking information. I think we're much more organized now and much more structured in the kind of the data that we collect, and everyone who is now has an official email address understands that material may potentially be used for archival going forward.
We're going to talk more about the Legato projects in a minute, but we can take away some good things from this session, which is maybe we need to provide guidance on the digital aspects as well.
I think there's a lot of interest in the
problem.
The metadata is also very interesting. I think we'll have to talk about that, because it would be good to standardize, at least for amongst our choirs, what kind of information we have.
The metadata, I understand the concept, but how to be categorizing my stuff to put the right tags on.
Paul, you wanted to say something?
Well, I'm Paul from Vox Rosa from The Hague. We celebrate anniversaries. I was in the choir for the 20th anniversary in 2005. Last year, the 40th anniversary. We don't have an archive. We've actually been reducing the number of members, unfortunately. So archive is what someone has in a box in their attic or in their spare room. It's very difficult to try and get that together. Some stuff you can digitalise, but some stuff you can't. You know, a costume or a prop you can't really digitalise. But I would like to look into this and to at least do something about it, because we have, with the oldest existing lesbian gay choir in the Netherlands, and it'd be a shame to lose what's already been lost.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know whether some of you were here at the start, but the most recent choir that we have lost was Cantatori del Duomo from Utrecht. And they'd been going for nearly 40 years, 30-something years, and then they eventually closed down, and we have none of their archive. So we've been... Nothing. No, they weren't collecting their material. So we've been helping the members, as they are, to try to pull things together. And one of the projects... In fact, I'll go and talk about the archive project, the LEGATO Archive project, because the idea is that... As I said at the start, Legato doesn't have its own archive. We're equally bad about collecting material for ourselves. But just as your choirs are all made up of people who pass in and out of the choirs, Legato and the leadership is all about people who pass in and out of that leadership. So there's no continuity in terms of trying to collect all of that. Even worse, our festivals are organized by individual choirs. We commission a choir to put it together. They have all of their material, their information, their posters, their banners, and Legato doesn't have a set for itself. So all of our materials, in a way, locked into individual choirs. And then on top of that, most choirs don't even have their own archive. So we are facing this almost insurmountable challenge to try to reconstitute our own archive. And we're really glad that the people who were there at the start are still here now. And so they can actually, we can actually start to go through that process of collecting those stories.
As part of the 23rd of the bid, if I remember rightly, we have got something about archival to Sussex, University of Sussex.
Yeah, someone mentioned this to me from the festival. I can't remember who it was though.
So let's talk outside. Let's work out what you think should be archived, so I can take it back to the organiser and say we should start.
Great.
So I guess most of you know what Legato is. You'd be surprised though, because the majority of people, I guess the rank and file choir members probably have never heard of Legato. But for the sake of starting off on a level playing field, Legato is the European Association of LGBTQ plus choirs. The first European festival took place in 1985. The network of choirs was kind of established then, but formalized really in 1997. And that's when, so Hans, who received the Long Service Award, is the one who actually set up Legato. He organized the 1995 festival, which was the first one to be called Various Voices. And then he felt that there was a need to bring people together. And so this was in the days before email, so he would like handwrite letters to different people. Or I'll type it with, I see some of the original letters with, it has a piece of carbon paper between between pieces of paper which you would type on, which I think is fantastic. What a novelty. So anyway, the idea is that, you know, we are here to celebrate our wider queer community, our wider queer choral community in Europe. And that's why our archive is so important.
But Legato also oversees the continuity of various voices.
Yeah.
So various voices gets handed from one country to the next country to the next country. And Legato is kind of the body that oversees that continuity and that transfer across time.
Yeah, which is the big challenge
Which
as
is
well.
quite, you know, it's essential.
So just, I think it's going to jump in when you like it, but basically these are the goals of our project, which is really, as I was saying, to create that Legato archive with material that is focused on the organization. Like what are our values, what are our aims, how did these get developed, how did we introduce new choirs to our community. If you go into the festival village, in the hall there is a banner which talks about Legato's history, so please go have a look at it. And it also, at a very, very high level, talks about how we, how women's choirs got incorporated into the network, how we started to reach out to Southern and Central and Eastern Europe, and then how we started to become more trans-inclusive, all of these things. These are discussions that we're having all the time. But it's, I think it gives a nice overview, so do go have a look at it.
Maybe we can share that as part of the resources as well.
I think so, yeah. As I mentioned, I think a lot of your choirs will have your own archives, and within your archives, you will have material that is related to Legato. Stuff that is your own, because maybe your members were on a board, or maybe because you were at a festival and you took a video, or you have a set of photographs of yourselves at a festival. We want that. We don't necessarily need to have you give it to us, although I think we could probably arrange for that to happen, but we need to know it exists. So our plan is then to create an archive hub, so that all choirs, as they build their own archives, as they come across Legato stuff, will say, hey, we've got this bit here. I guess this is why the metadata stuff is so important, because that needs to be a key part of identifying objects. So today was a little bit about setting up a guidance for choirs, and I think the guidance is not so much like, you have to do it this way. I think, as Chris is quite clear, everyone has their own kind of ways of putting their material together. I think our idea is that we want to take the fear factor out of it, and so give people a framework to operate within, which then enables you to collect your own histories, and then hopefully for us to then also collect it as well. As I mentioned, that choir from Utrecht, Cantatori del Duomo, closed down last year, and we are very keen now on looking at choirs which have folded and creating maybe a page that celebrates them for what they were. Many of the what we call legacy choirs were the ones that were formed in the late 70s, 80s, and these were a group of friends who formed because they wanted to sing a bit, they wanted to be, show some activism, and they just grew old together. And they didn't renew themselves, which is fine, and they just enjoyed singing together for their whole lives, and then they got to the point where, okay, we can't do it anymore, we don't want to do it anymore, and the choir stopped. But I love that story, and we all want to hear those stories, because they were part of Legato for however long they were around. So the choir epitaph is specifically for that. And as we talked about it as well, we need to make sure that these things are sustainable, right? And so much is dependent on individual voluntary effort. That's the thing that's a real issue. And then on top of that, we come and go. And so it's often not handed over. There's no continuity there. So we'd love to create this system, at least where Legato itself can continue to promote and sustain choral archival across Europe. And then finally, it's that subject of interpretation. It's like giving examples of how we've leveraged our archive to tell the story of Legato. Just as choirs can tell stories by singing music, we want to be able to tell the story of Legato through all of the stuff that we've had, the videos, the photographs, the individual tales. All of that will help to build the richness, because I've been on the board for like 7 years now, and one of the questions that I've always been asking of us is, what is Legato for? The festival, yes, it's really important, but the festival is only a part of our wider goal, which is to create this connected community of queer people across Europe, right? How do we do that? We do that by bringing people together in spaces like this, where we can talk and exchange information and get to know each other better and share experiences. But these experiences need to be banked, and so that we can tell those stories again to the people who come after us. And that will then allow us to become a resilient community, and then we can go out into the world and affect change, which is ultimately, I guess, what our community is here to do. So, I just want to give a quick example of the choir epitaphs. This is a wonderful little website from Schmidt.org. Actually, where is Schmidt based? I think it was somewhere in Germany. And this is a choir epitaph for a choir called Tucket und die zwei Sibyllen. I would really suggest you go have a look at this. It's in German, but it can be translated. That's the QR code for it. But it really gives, within 4 or 5 paragraphs, a good summary of the choir, what it stood for, where it sang, who were its members. And so we are looking at something along those lines, just to collect the information about these choirs. And if you have your own archive, if a choir has its own archive, then we want to include that in the Legato database as well, so that people who come to Legato go, oh, I'd like to find out more about Tapalanot, and they'll go to the Tapalanot page on Legato, and they can go visit you, or they can say, okay, this is where their archive is, so we can click on that and go visit all your archival stuff when you've collected it.
Thank you. These are just some links to and some information on how to contact us. Maybe we should take down your emails. If you want, we can send you the slides from today, and that you'll get the links to these other resources. The Pink Singers created an archiving toolkit as part of that project, which has some information on what kinds of things are found in choir archives and how you can maybe store them or pass them on to public archives. And the Pink Singers also produced a project booklet. So let me just bring this chair over here. So you're welcome to take one of these or have a look through it. The link to the digital version is on the screen there as well. So you can please take them away. I don't want to carry them back to London. If you want one, it's yours. And yes, we have an email address that you can contact us if you want to let us know about things or ask us questions. We're just at the beginnings of this Legato project, and we want to engage with different archives around Europe and support choirs to work with those archives. So we obviously can't take everything into Legato. We're trying to create a network and support people locally. We also really need history geeks from each country to go to archives and research what's there already. So if you live in a city or a country that has an LGBT archive and you want to go there and learn about the history of choirs in your country, or share that through Legato, then please feel free to join our kind of volunteer band of archive researchers. We don't know what that will look like yet, but we're just trying to get the ball rolling on this project and figure out what's next, really. But we're always keen to meet like-minded people in different countries who are interested in the kind of European LGBT choral network and its development over the last 50 years.
Yeah, I just wanted to address your question earlier about the music archive, because this is another project which I haven't presented here today, but Legato is working on creating a music archive of queer European choral music. All our choirs produce lots of queer music. We sing lots of music that's relevant to us. We've commissioned lots of music ourselves. Every festival has its own Various Voices song. We've not collected any of this. And look, why have we not done this, right? This is so important. I'm also in charge of another project together with Michael Betteridge of the Sunday Boys in Manchester, Mary Ellen Kitchens from the Munich LGBTQ Orchestra, and her also her own choir there. I can't remember its name now.
Rainbow Sound Orchestra and Rainbow Voices.
And Thomas Hilder from the Korhen in Norway, in Trondheim. So what we are aiming to do there is actually ask choirs to send us their songs that are, we haven't quite defined what exactly we're looking for, but it has to be European queer choral music. In whatever language. I think the wonderful thing about Europe is that we are so diverse, but traditionally Legato has been very northeastern and very English actually in terms of its language. So we want to diversify that as much as possible, because once again, to try and create this European community means that we really need to sing in each other's languages. Much of this material is going to be old, and so songs like from the Pink Singers collection, we are going to will be the part of this archive, and we're going to create this database that eventually, from which we want to draw material that we could create a pan-European songbook that allows us as a queer choral community to sing songs that are part of our community. So yeah, that's it.
So if anyone, firstly, would you mind if I take a picture of your thing so we can have a list of who's been here? Or maybe we could take a picture together or something.
Can you also exchange us with the others?
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. And you were, hey.
Okay.
Let's go back to another screen of that. We want it.